Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. I'm Carlo Prusa. Today I have mixed martial artist, soon to be BKFC fighter. He is Mr. Rico DiSciullo. Rico, what's going on, brother?
What's up, brother? How's it going?
It's going good, man. You know, some exciting news comes out about a week ago, less than a week ago. Big Mohegan Sun BKFC card. Rico DiSciullo on it, taking the gloves off for the first time, making his debut. You know, we've talked in the past. I know you wanted to go the bare knuckle route, but what made you really decide to go bare knuckle boxing?
It was just good timing, really. I mean, things just kind of worked out. I haven't, been able to fight local in a little bit. It's somewhat local. There's an event happening over in Mohegan Sun, which is like 2.5 hours from where I grew up. In Peabody, Mass, like 20 minutes out from Boston. So, I mean, it's an opportunity to kind of, throw down bare knuckle, put on an incredible show, and have like the support of, probably the last time that people that grew up following me will be able to see me locally, unless I get lucky and get on a card that comes back to Boston. But you know how it is. Usually it's all over the place. So we'll see what happens. But
You know, I mean, all across the United States, there's some hot pockets of great regional talent, just great fight areas. I think the area that you guys are from up in Massachusetts, so many names, so many great promotions. Obviously, you have the Cage Titans, CES, you have Combat Zone, you have yourself, you have Saul Almeida, Slippery Pete in there, Charles Rosa, Joe Loza. I mean, go on and on with this. What just draws fighting in that area?
I don't know. To be honest, I mean, obviously, you look back at history. A lot of great boxers come from Boston. This is just so many. And the thing is, it's always kind of like a fight city. Whether it's even in sports, it's super competitive. Football, baseball, basketball. It's always just like a really, really competitive area. New England just it's kind of a fight area. If you think about it, guys like Mickey Ward, growing up around here, that's probably closer to, when I grew up watching local guys. And then you go look in the past, you got, going all the way back to Rocky Marciano. There's just so many high level boxers. But then, when MMA came around, you had guys like, Kenny Florian, you had guys like Joe Lozon, you had guys coming up from Maine, like Marcus Davis. Just this whole area. I grew up like training over at Sit Yat Tong. That's how I got into MMA, was at Sit Yat Tong in Boston, and that was a staple for like the elite of the elite, like MMA guys. Stephen Bonner was coming through that gym. Just so many like great guys all the time before it even really got big. When UFC was really just starting to get going, so that kind of sucked me in, and then from there, I was just going everywhere I could to just get the best possible training. And they linked up with some guys, some Daniel Gracie guys, and then I get my jiu-jitsu, and then it just starts to unravel. It starts to just roll into the next thing. Start working on wrestling, start working on boxing, trying to do everything you can just to be the best fighter you can. And now with bare knuckle, that's actually I had my first couple fights doing bare knuckle, kind of, but in the streets for a couple bucks here and there before I even had smokers for MMA and stuff. So that's kind of how things got going. I didn't really like to talk about it too much, because it's kind of like, obviously clearly not exactly the legal route at the time, but it was the only time I could get paid and get some fights and get some experience. And then MMA happened and things like that. And so I do have a little bit of bare knuckle experience, only a couple, but it worked out in my favor. I got the W's, got out of there clean, and got some money and bounced.
It's kind of crazy when you look about how combat sports, mixed martial arts in general, has grown over the years. 15, 20 years ago, people were calling this human cockfighting.
15 years, exactly. It's crazy how much it's grown in 15 years.
And now we got we got bare knuckle MMA, we got bare knuckle boxing. I mean, so many different promotions out there. Guys are making a living doing this. But when you first started, man, you touched upon it a little bit. But for the sanctioned fights, do you remember seeing any promotions or hearing of friends who had maybe mystery opponents, maybe not the best medicals, fighting in barns outside, anything crazy?
Well, we had a couple fights with literally one kid would set up a fight against a kid that was down. I showed up. I had no idea how much he weighed. We had no idea anything. This kid showed up. He was a heavyweight. I probably weighed 140 pounds at the time, soaking wet. And there's 200 people there. They all got, they gathered the money beforehand. And this kid's got a nickname already. He's Right Hook Rivers and this, that. I'm like, what are we doing, boys? What are we doing? I was like, I better get paid for this no matter what. But that's the type of shit that was happening. You know what I mean? That was like before even the UFC was really getting traction. You know what I mean? That's like right around when it was still like there was no weight classes and it was crazy. You know what I mean? That's like, it was probably just when it was really starting to get legitimate. You know what I mean? I was still young though at the time, so I didn't have like those type of gyms and outlets to go to. But we were just knucklehead kids that just grew up scrapping, and you know those type of things happen every now and then. But I always wanted to fight. Like even as a little kid, you know, I did karate and boxing as a young kid, and I was just looking for places to do it. You know, I ended up moving up to like kids 3 or 4 years older than me and sparring with them, and then I kind of fell out of the karate a little bit and started going into traditional sports and played lacrosse, played football, played hockey, played everything I could that was physical. You know what I mean? And then out of high school, like I said, I moved to Somerville, which is Sigatong, Boston. I ran into that gym, and that's how I kind of put everything together. And then my boxing coach now, Eddie Alvarez, where I'm at his gym right now, he actually linked up and did a lot of the striking and the boxing with us over at Sit, because he's more of a traditional boxing style, but he knows a little bit of everything with striking. So I've been working with him a lot to clean up, you know, just my hands and my striking in general. So it kind of worked out because I've been working with him a lot in the past like couple of years and really sharpening things up. And now we got an opportunity to showcase it.
You know, it's pretty cool when you look at your record, something that I don't think you really saw too much at the time. You had a very lengthy amateur record. I mean, there's about 12 contests on there that are at least listed on Topology. You know, from what I've seen 15, 20 years ago, you know, guys wouldn't spend that long amount of time as the AMI. For you, what was that decision like to take pro? Why did you want to do so many amateur fights? Was it just trying to be as well-rounded as possible?
Yeah, so me and my boy Charles Rosa were like best friends growing up, getting in a lot of trouble down here before he dipped down to Florida. But so he moved to Florida, and I was up in Boston, and I was training, and he was training. He was taking a year. You know, we didn't really communicate too much, and he was training up in Florida, and I was training up in Boston. And I had a smoker in Boston. I knocked a couple guys out after a couple of smokers, and they were like, "All right, this kid's been training for 2 years without fighting." I substituted for somebody, went up a couple weight classes, knocked some kid out, and they were like, "All right, this kid's not fooling around. Like he really wants to compete." So they put me through the ringer. You know what I mean? They made me really, really put in the work before I could even step into fighter's practice. So really, it benefited me. And then from there, I was just fighting to have fun. I didn't think I was gonna, you know, I didn't want to go pro. I had a couple amateur fights. First amateur fight, knocked the dude out 13 seconds, fell asleep, like left in a stretcher. Crazy fight. The next couple fights, I fought the best guys in New England after my fourth and fifth fight. I fought Kin Moy for the to unify a title with AFO. It was the first like AFO amateur title and Cage Titans amateur title like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But Kin Moy, really, really tough, you know, tough guy. He was the best, one of the best in New England at that weight class, 100%. I got a first round knockout over him, and then that's when I started getting serious about it. We really started like, all right, my manager and people were like, listen, you're at a level where you're beating a lot of the pros in the gym that've been training for a long, long time, and you're smoking them and this and whatever. Like you're doing really well. You can go pro. You can be, you know, make this a career if you do it right. Blah blah. So at first I was just kind of like doing it for fun, literally partying the night before, knocking some dude out, having a blast, and then you know what I mean, on to the next, and just doing it for fun. And then we started, you know, the more, you know, the amateur career kept going. We were like, dude, fuck it, let's see how far we can go with this. Start get some sponsors, you know, maybe try to move around. So that was one thing I think we did as an amateur. I tried to get a bunch of fights like Charles did. Charles was in Florida. He was pumping out amateur fights, and a good thing about that is gave him a lot of exposure. So got a lot of exposure before going pro. So I went down to Florida. He's like, there's this tournament that they do. It's called Rise of a Warrior. He's like, let's try to get you in it. Some of the best guys down here. He's like, you already got to beat the number one guy up there. He's like, come down here and you'll pretty much be, you know, taking care of the whole East Coast. You know what I mean? So we went down the Rise of a Warrior. I stayed with him for a couple months in between fights, and Charles McCarthy, Roger Crow, like all those guys. He brought me to ATT. I trained down there for a couple months every time I would fight, and I wiped out that tournament. And then I made my pro debut for Bellator, which was huge because that's like, I think my amateur career allowed me to, you know, fight for Bellator for my first professional fight, which is kind of a big step. So like, and I got a guy that was already, you know, pretty experienced. Ended up having one of my favorite knockouts. Too bad I don't have the video, but I knocked him out. It was outrageous, man. And he left, and I don't think he ever fought again. He was out cold. It was kind of scary, to be honest. It was a pretty gnarly knockout, and had to stop the show and stretch him out, whatever. But I mean, that's the fight game. You have to be. You're either in it 100% because it's not a game. It's, you know what I mean. It's dangerous. So you have to accept it before you even go in there to know what, you know, what can be done. So. But that's kind of how I got started. And I think the amateur fights were so big because it made me get that exposure to go pro and kind of already have a name as a pro, and then start really shooting to go as far with it as I could.
You're fortunate enough to have fought on platforms, for the UFC, the biggest pinnacle of the sport of mixed martial arts, from the Ultimate Fighter, from the Contender Series. Where were you when you got that call that you're going to be on the Dana White Contender Series?
The Contender Series was a while ago. I forget exactly where I was. I might have been. I don't. I'm not. I was probably home, whatever, or at the gym. But I remember like right away getting that opportunity and being really really excited about it because I trained with some of the best guys on the planet, and I knew I was capable of, and I know I deserved to be at the highest level of fighting. You know what I mean? It's just I ended up fighting Montel Jackson, hell of a fighter. It was a really 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 weird fight. If you look back at it, probably has like the most penalties in all of any like professional like mixed martial arts fight. And it was unfortunate. Like first eye gouge was horrible. The ref didn't see that one, but he saw the next two: nut shot, back of the head, a lot of like really really funky stuff. And I literally there was a time where I was like, I can't even really see. I'm seeing double. I have to look at his feet, but I was like, what do I stop the fight? Not get this opportunity ever again? I'd rather let them know I'll go out on my shield. Pretty much, it was the decision I made, so I can't really blame anybody. I was salty about it for a little bit. I was kind of like, he's a dirty fighter, blah blah blah. But I mean, that type of shit happens. I got it's MMA. You have no, what I mean. Your fingers are out, so it kind of didn't sit with me very well for a little bit because I know I can compete at that level and win at that level and be really really be a star at that level. I just it just didn't work out that day, but it kept me kept me grinding, kept me with a chip on my shoulder. You know what I mean? I always got something to prove, and I think I still do, and I think that's why I'm still going, and I feel like I'm just it's weird to say, like I always think like I feel like I'm right in the mix of where I should be. Like I'm not at the beginning or I'm not at the end. I'm like I have that fire in me, and I feel good, and I'm still like I still got a lot to give this sport. You know what I mean? And a lot to give these fans. I know I can make some, have some devastating knockouts ahead of me. I got some just highlight reel finishes and just big fights ahead of me that I really think I can put on a show for anybody that comes and watches me fight.
Kind of took it out of my mouth. One thing that I love watching about you is you go in there and you fight, man. I mean, you're very
Yeah, it's a
well-rounded
fight.
mixed martial artist. You got hands. We saw it on the Ultimate Fighter, man. I mean, one of the highlights of that season. What an amazing knockout against Hunter Azuri. I mean, just absolutely scary to watch. Walk me through that finish.
Yeah, so the biggest thing was early in that fight, the first round, he got me against the cage, and I made a decision to like elbow him because I clipped him with 2 or 3 elbows that really hurt him, and it cut him, and he faded out a little bit, and I was losing position on the takedown, but I knew if I hit him with 1 or 2 more, I might be able to finish him, and I actually hit him, and he like surged, he like woke up, and he got the takedown, and we knew we didn't want to be on our back early on with him. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's really hard to get off, like traditionally, like just getting up from the ground, especially the way he changed his wrestling against the cage. So after, like, just getting out of the first round was, most important thing. Don't do anything stupid to give up your neck, give up position, blah, blah, blah. Just I was trying to chip away from the bottom just to like make him, a little uncomfortable enough to where like I could continue and get back to my feet. Second round starts, I just dropped my hands. So this way, like, I want to make sure he knows if he's going to take me down, like I'm going to stuff. If my hands are here, I'm almost giving him a chance to punch me in the face. I'm leaving my face open, but it's going to make it a hell of a lot harder for him to close the distance to take me down. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. He ain't taking me down in the open like that, and he's got to get me to the cage, and it's not going to happen with my hands like that. You know what I mean? So I'm almost inviting him to strike, and at that point, like, I don't care who you are. If you can't take me down, we're gonna you're in my world, and we're sitting there striking. We're gonna have a fucking fist fight. Like it's gonna be exciting, very technical, but almost like I don't want to say I technically brawl. I set up a lot of things. Sometimes I do brawl. Sometimes I'll be super super strategic. Sometimes I'll pick apart from the outside to find some openings. I try to mix everything I can to do the best I can to hit and not be hit and finish. You know what I mean? I really, before I left, I worked with my boxing coach, Eddie Alvarez, probably 1,000 times over switching stances, getting into range, parrying over the top, and landing that overhand exactly the way I did. If you watch the video, we did this 1,000 times. I threw a kick at Hunter, and I switched stance back, and he starts to par out his jab. And as he's parring out his jab, I actually use my lead hand to grab his lead hand and pull him into the cross. That's what made it so devastating that people don't understand. They think I just threw a punch and it was kind of lucky. But that whole thing was completely set up from the kick to the switching of the stances to make him change the range. He didn't realize how close we were, and that's what caused the knockout. Like once I touched him, I knew he was out pretty much. But I've actually knocked someone out in the past, and the ref didn't stop it, and I went to hit him again, and I missed and skimmed him, and it woke him back up. So I would take any chances. I will not take any chances, And plus, in that moment, I don't really see people as like people. Like it's something I got to get through. It's like I don't know how to describe it. Like that person's trying to win and kill you, pretty much. Like it's the way I see it. It's like once you're locked in the cage with somebody, you're like it's almost like a monster or an enemy. Like it's not exactly a human to you anymore, if that makes any sense. Like I can't have those feelings because I can get hurt if I have those feelings. You understand what I'm saying? Like if I hesitate because I hit him, I'm like, oh, that hurt him. I hesitate, boom, I can go out. You know what I mean? You got to be able to separate that. And then right after the fight, no problem. We're all human. You know what I mean? We'll be buddies. We'll go have a beer. You know what I mean? We're all trying to do the same thing, but we're all fighting for the same goal. And he's fighting for his family. I'm fighting for mine. And, that's just what it is.
Is it true that Charles Rosa snuck in for that fight?
Yeah, dude, he did. The way it happened too was so wild because like he walked in while I was cutting weight, like the last 2 pounds, which is always kind of whatever. And he sneaks he's in there and he's like talking to everybody, blah blah blah. And they're figuring out. I don't know. He's like trying to probably figure out when he can get to the fight to like they're gonna throw him a jersey so he can slide his ass in there. And we open the doors, the kick open the door. Walking out, I have no idea, and I see him, and he's got like this Rosa like Boston Bruins sweatshirt on that like it instantly like just triggered my mind to look at it because it's a Bruins shirt. I'm like, who's wearing a Bruins shirt here? You know what I mean? And I thought I was like hallucinating for a second because Charles is like my very best friend in the world, and we fought so often together that I was like, oh my god, that kid looks like Charles. I was like, it brought me to like a place like, is that Charles? And I just kind of had to shake it off, and I was like, all right, I'm about to fight. Let's not fucking think about anything else right now. And then I see him like it's him, and I'm like, how the fuck did you get in here, pal? I was like, what strings did you pull to get in here? But it was awesome. It was a great experience because like he was obviously told not to say much, this, that, whatever. He couldn't even once they realized he was in there, he couldn't say a word. But that fight got so crazy by the middle, going into the second round, he was fucking losing his mind, screaming. You know what I mean? And it was just a really, really great moment between me and him after I get that finish because he knows how much I've put into it. We both have, and he knows the path that, we have taken to get there. We both have had major losses in our lives with the people around us. And, right before that, one of our best friends in the world, Chris Wyman, passed away. And it was like something that we all always talked about, like, get to that next level. He's like, yo, you guys deserve this. You guys, we always just had that conversation about like, when are you getting your shot? When's the next one? This, like, when's, just always had that, just a super tight click and we were just best friends and I kind of just, went through the journey together. So it's like for me to finally have that, my shot, my chance to kind of show up and show out and do what I had to do to show everybody who I was. It happened at probably the best time it could. I mean, he was there with me, and like he jumps on the cage, and me and him are just kind of embracing and both kind of having like I just had like a flash through my brain of everything we went through, and it's like almost brought me to tears. I couldn't even. It was super emotional, and but like so great. Like he kept calling me afterwards when I get back. He's like, that was more like that was better than one of my fights. That I had so much fun. Like it was it was one of those things that an emotional roller coaster, and it was just we both did everything together from start to finish, and we're still going. So it was awesome. It was a great moment. We'll definitely never forget that for sure.
At what point of when you applied to the Ultimate Fighter, be on the show, when you got the call saying you're going to be on the show, did you start realizing that Conor McGregor is going to be your coach?
Well, the funny thing was, I actually turned it down a couple of years back because my daughter was being born, and I was like really, really nervous about that decision because I wasn't sure if they were going to be like, oh, fuck this kid. He does, you know what I mean? But that's one of the things I knew I wouldn't be myself being there and knowing my daughter is about to be born and I'm not being there. So this time around, I actually didn't try out for it. I didn't even ask to be on it. I was, already setting up for another fight. I had a title fight scheduled against, I can't pronounce his name. He actually, he just fought. He got signed to the UFC not too far after. But yeah, so I had a title fight set with him, And then my manager contacted me. He's like, dude, Ultimate Fighter, someone's, either mentioned your name or something happened. They've been contacting me about you. So that kind of, then I said, all right, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. At this point, I'll do it. Why not? And they called me up and, everything else is history. It kind of just rolled out, just happened.
I think one of the coolest moments on that season, obviously, you got your viral knockout, one of the sickest knockouts in UFC history or Ultimate Fighter history. But you also got to drive Conor McGregor's Lambo. I think that was one of my favorite parts of the season. What was that like, man? What was it like driving that car?
Yeah, that was so funny because it was so like just out of nowhere, and he was like, "Yeah, come on, let's go for a ride, lad. Let's have some whip, whatever." And I get in it, and I told him like I've never drove. He's like, "Have you ever even?" He's like, "Oh shit!" I just gave this kid the keys. He's buckling up, and he's like, tells me to buckle up, and then he's like, "You know how to drive this fucking thing?" Like he's like, "You know how to drive this, lad?" Like I was like, Nah, I don't know. I've driven them before. I've driven a couple supercars and stuff before, so I fucking downshifted and just ripped it. And he was absolutely freaking the fuck out, screaming like, yeah. And all the security comes, all of a sudden you see like, because the security and, the people that like run the show are shitting their fucking pants probably. You know what I mean? The liability on that fucking, oh man, I can't even imagine. Thinking about it now, they must have been fucking freaking out because all of a sudden you see like his security cars coming and blah, 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 and we come back around. But he was the man. He's like, once he knew I could handle the thing, he was like, let's fucking just keep going. So, and we couldn't even listen to music or nothing. So he put on he blasted some music. He started recording. He's like, I'm with the Don Rico here. We're getting the knockout. I was like, you better not post that because we'll be fucked. Because you know how everything's delayed. You know what I mean, from the show. So it was like, I think it was right after the knockout, and obviously the show doesn't air for months later. So I was like, oh man, just don't air that. You know what I mean? Please, knowing him, you know what I mean. You never know what you're gonna get. But he was awesome, man. The team was awesome. I can't like those guys. Everybody can say what they want about Connor, but I had 2 months with him, right? And he was a man of his word with everything. He really took care of us. He took care of between his nutritionist, the wrestling coach, all the guys, like they were so legit. They were so cool to me. And I base all my opinions on like how people treat me and like how they are around me. Obviously he's in another world right now with, he's just a higher level than everybody when it comes to money and fame and everything. But he's so down to earth with me, man. He was so cool. Even after the show hit, like I have to get my Instagram back. I'm kind of locked out right now, but I was talking with him for a while after the show about like just everything. Like, what should I work on? How do I do this? How do I get to that next level? All types of stuff. He had someone contact me for, something in Boston that they did for his forged art stout stuff. And he's just cool guy. Just, you know what I mean? And, yeah, man, I was just so excited and pumped to be blessed to be on that team. It was just a fucking fun experience. I wish that they showed all the stuff behind the scenes because we had a blast. Like, and we worked our ass off, but we were like, there was so many cool behind the scenes stuff, interactions between all the fighters, like even different teams, the way that we interacted in our conversations. And like, I think the stuff that everybody would really want to like know about how fighters interact and what their preparation is and how they deal with people around them, like their past and just like crazy stuff. Jason Knight, Jason Knight, a bunch of we had some crazy stories, man. It was a wild time. It was cool. All the guys were really really cool, and yeah, it was a great experience. I'm very happy. I'm sure everybody on that show, whether they won or lost, they definitely enjoyed that experience because that whole unit were all solid professionals. There was no like knucklehead on that team, like between either of the teams. Everybody was there for a reason. Everybody was worked their ass off and try to be, do the best they could, and that's all you can ask for. And everybody was just fun, man, and just cool, just legit professionals, hardworking pros, just trying to get to that next level.
Did Connor play any role if you go into BKFC?
He actually didn't. I haven't talked. So I haven't been on my Instagram. I got locked out of my Instagram, but I don't know. So after he had a part ownership in it, there was talks of this, that, whatever. Someone talked to him about it. I don't know who exactly. He might have had a little bit. I don't know if he had some, because people have been contacting me all of a sudden about it, and I was like, I don't know, blah 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 blah. And then when it came around like Mohegan Sun, I was like, oh shit. And then what happened was right after I came back from the Ultimate Fighter, I had some fights lined up, and then I tore my knee again, so I had to get surgery. And this time I just cut my meniscus out completely, so it's been great. But because I had a surgery a couple years back, like right around COVID time, that set me back after COVID, so it was like, another setback one after the other. But I was getting ready for a fight, and then I tore my knee. So this was actually, it kind of works out because it was hard to get ready for an MMA fight, grappling and wrestling with that knee injury. With now going towards just straight boxing, I wasn't so concerned about my knee. It gave me more time to heal and rehab it and build it. And I could still work on my hands and condition and do everything and almost like help me get even better. You know what I mean? So now I'm at a place where I can do everything. Take this boxing fight, this bare knuckle fight, hopefully put on a show for everybody, get a big finish. And from there, I can do anything now because I already got the surgery. I'm already, rehabbed. I'm already good to go, and it's been great since. I should have cut it out the first time, to be honest.
I've covered a lot of bare knuckle over the past couple of years, and one thing that I think I've come to realization, just because someone might be good with the gloves on, when you take it off, it's a whole new ball game. I think you have to have that dog. You have to have that
Yeah,
dog in you, that warrior. Do you feel like your game, your philosophy, the way you approach fighting fits perfect for taking the gloves off?
100%. Because first of all, I've done it, and I've done it a lot. Um, but I actually have had like only a couple like non-sanctioned fights. They're not going to be like this against, what I mean. It's not going to be it wasn't sanctioned like bare knuckle, but I've been there. I've done that, and not only that is my style. I can do a little bit of everything. I can fight from the outside. I can dirty box, and that's another thing too. Coming from an MMA background, a little bit of clinch work and stuff like that. Like I can fight on the inside. I can bounce around. I can fight from both stances. You know what I mean? I can find my way to get to that chin, and I'm a devastating puncher once I get there. And I can also just volume you up and piece you up with volume and technique and head movement and footwork. You know what I mean? I feel like I can do a little bit of everything when it comes. And this is gonna hopefully, this will be the first time straight boxing without kicks and everything. But I feel like I can translate how I move with kickboxing um, into bare knuckle fairly easy because I can fight from both stances. I can fight completely lefty, like stay there, fight, southpaw, fight orthodox. I have the same type of weapons from both sides. I know how to make setups from both sides. I know how to make reads from both sides. I'm defensively sound, lefty and righty. So I can mix it up a lot, give you a lot of different looks and kind of, you know, create some problems for some people.
With this
And
being
if it comes down to it, I can just say fuck it, throw the game plan out the window, bite down on my mouthpiece, and just try to take someone's fucking face off. That's what I mean. That's if you got to do that, you got to have that in you, and that's sometimes it's got to be ugly, but it's got to be done. You
with
know,
this being the first official, bare knuckle boxing training camp for you, is a part of it, accuracy, understanding when to throw the twos, understanding when to throw the threes. Is that part of this camp?
there's a lot of detail that goes into, for me anyway, between like strengthening up your hands, between even the defense. Like when you got boxing gloves on, you can use this, and it's your glove is bigger to block. There's big holes. You know what I mean? If you don't have gloves, so you got to be, your defense should be a little bit tighter. You have to be very accurate. You have to be, yeah, it changes up a little bit. You can get cut with a jab. One jab, a couple of jabs can end a fight if you know how to set it up and hit a couple clean jabs, split somebody open, and the fight could be over with 3 or 4 or 5 hard, clean jabs. If the cut's nasty, that's just how it is. It's bare knuckle. You know what I mean? Your knuckles can cut very easy. So you just have to understand your range, understand setups, understand defense. It's a little more, it's different. I don't want to say it's more technical in boxing because boxing is super technical, but there's it's definitely a difference. There's definitely a difference because I'm sure there's guys at a very very high level that are boxers that you would think would kill it and come into bare knuckle boxing, and that's not the case. It really is a different sport, and I'm aware of that, and I take it very serious. I am not taking anybody for granted. I'm not going in there thinking I'm gonna just go in there and just wipe out whoever I walk in there with. I respect every person walking in there. I know for a fact this fight's going to be a real good fight. Like I'm expecting to go 5 rounds. I want to get it finished 100%. I'm going to do everything I can in my power to finish it. But I'm training to do whatever I got to do to win and go the distance if need be. But yeah, so it's very technical. There's a lot of different things you got to do. I think strengthening up your hands. Understanding throwing shots cleaner because if you just throw like haymakers, you can break your hands. You got to be smart about how you throw. You got to be smart about how you catch and return. But I think we're going to be ready for it, and I think we're going to put on a show.
So you're making your BKFC debut, taking on Anthony Foye. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent?
I think he's got good, clean boxing. He's very long, right? He's got a very long 1-2. He's more of a guy that kind of wants to just like volume pressure fight you and chip away at you and just make you hopefully kind of just keep on chipping away at you until you make a mistake, and just keep on chipping away. I feel like if you get overconfident with him, he can probably be a problem. And he's got a good gas tank. He can go 5 rounds and keep out a solid output. So you got to be smart. I got to be smart about how I approach it. There's going to be times where I'm going to be extremely technical. There's going to be times where I'm probably just like smashing in. I'm probably going to do a little bit of everything in this fight. It's really going to depend on what I see in front of me. I can't tell you exactly what I'm going to do because I haven't stepped in front of him yet. I kind of am more of a reactionary fighter. I know how to move when I see what I see, so I have some game plans, some setups that I think will work, but sometimes you go out there and the things that you think are going to work aren't going to work. So you have to be able to adapt, and that's something I can do.
I think you're one of those guys, you're on these free agents out there that has fought on the highest levels, fought on the biggest platform, has a great 11-2 records, fun, exciting, but I don't really feel like you've truly had your chance to be at a promotion platform long enough to really break out on a mainstream scene. Do you feel like BKFC could be that opportunity for you?
It's funny that you say that. I had this exact conversation with a couple of my people, and my boxing coach believes like, damn man, like you got to be somewhere long enough where you can showcase what you can do. I had the 3 fun fights for Bellator, but we moved right to the next thing. I never really had an opportunity to be somewhere where I can, get that opportunity to show everybody what I can do with different fights and different styles, and just showcase everything. And I agree. I think this could maybe change something. We'll see.
I think so many people watch mixed martial arts. They watch the BKFC. There's all this combat sports in this day and age. Yet very few people understand what this is like to be a professional mixed martial arts. They see the McGregors, the Joneses, the Beebs, and people are like, wow, this must be the best life ever. Huh. When you're fighting on the regional scene, as you know, you're probably losing money. You're not making much money fighting on the regional scene. Guys have kids, wives, 9-to-5 jobs. You have to pay to train. You have to deal with killers, wake up early, stay up late, do this day in and day out to try to chase this dream. You've been doing this for 15 years. What's made you stick through it and keep doing it, my friend?
I just got that fire in me, man. It's my soul. It's just who I am. You know what I mean? I wouldn't listen. I have a million reasons to quit this. I already know at this point. It's just in my blood. It's my lifestyle. It's kind of just it saved my life. Martial arts in general saved my life. It makes me a better person. Helps me raise my kids the right way. It really kind of being in the gym and being training and helps me. I work with some of the young kids. I teach some of the young kids. I'm kind of um, you know showing the next generation. I think that's I just love it. I love it. It's in my bones, and I'll never not be in the gym. I figured it out. I'm like, I can't just stop this. The worst, at the end when I'm all done fighting, I'll still be teaching. I'll still be coaching. I'll still be in the gym just about, a couple times a week for sure. I teach actually over at Kyle Bokniak's gym over in North Andover. I help a little bit over here with the kids with boxing and stuff. But yeah, man, it's in my blood. At this point, I've been doing it for so long. I'm so passionate about it. I love it. And I know I got more to give. So it's like, as long as I stay healthy, as long as everything's good, and I know I can showcase and make fans and people excited and enjoy watching the fights, I'm going to do it.
Obviously the sport has come so long, as we talked about, in the last 15 years. And with the positives, some people might come the negatives. You have a lot more people watching the sport now. And now you have the term, the casual fan. These are people who are usually drunk. They're at B-dubs, bars, cheap seats. Guys are doing jiu-jitsu exchanges, wrestling, twist them in the you-know-what. You're a humper, crotch sniffer, all this stuff. Probably they love to DM you, I'm sure. DM everybody. What's your take on these people?
Yeah, I don't really care. I don't really pay attention. If they buy a ticket, sure, enjoy the show, whatever. I don't even pay attention to it. You know what I mean? My life is, my family, my kids, the gym. When I'm in here, it's all business. You know what I mean? I only train with like high level guys, and not even, I train with a lot of the up and coming people and everybody. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't put myself in that world. I go every once in a while. You go to a bar, you get some guy. I did boxing before. I know wrist locks and blah blah blah. Like, I don't know. It's just everybody wants to have a confrontation with the professional fighter to show him that the Krav Maga move he learned 10 years ago, and the trigger point that he knows how to knock somebody out, whether he touches them in the shoulder and stuff. But real fighters know what's up. It's fun, dude. It don't bother me, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure it can get ridiculous they start getting over the top, but you got to block that stuff out, especially when you're fighting. I'm zoned in, man. I don't hear nothing except my corner. You couldn't phase me if you tried.
With maybe some of the negatives come the positives, the skill level and talent has greatly evolved over the last 15 or 20 years. I mean, you're seeing some kids now 24, 25 go in the UFC. It's unbelievable. And I think one of the reasons is like your daughter, 10 years old, doing jiu-jitsu now. This is
Yeah,
culturally accepted. People are
yeah,
watching it.
yeah. So my son's 10. He's doing jujitsu. My daughter's
Right.
I'm just starting to get her. But you remembered. I'm surprised. Yeah, he's been doing jujitsu. He does boxing over here. If the thing is, it's funny. I had him in my training camp right before I went to the Ultimate Fighter for that. I had a fight for Combat FC. It was a main event over there, and I had him corner me. And the deal was, if you want to corner me and want to be in my corner, you have to go through the entire training camp with me because I don't want you nervous if I get cut. I don't need you freaking out. I don't need to worry about you while I'm fighting. You know what I mean? This is it's an important fight, blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget it. So he goes through the whole training camp. He's with me every day in this gym and over at Sit and over at everywhere I was training. And he would come in, and there was days where he would do like sparring with like a heavyweight. Be like, "Dad, are you gonna spar this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me show you." Put in some work on some bigger guy, make him, beat him up a little bit, and just show him. I'm like, it's about skills, not exactly size. You put in the time. It's like anything else. You want to be good at something, you got to practice. And we go through the whole camp. We get to the fight, and right before the fight, he does pad work for me now. Cause now he's holding the pads for me, warming me up. He's like, Dada, we're walking out. I know you're ready, but I just watched this guy do pad work. He looked really good. He's like, I know you're ready, but just don't be too cocky, all right? He's like, all right. I'm like, all right, thanks. He like checked me right before the fight. He gave me daps. He's like, all right, let's go get it. I'm like, kid's 10 years old telling me. I was like, he has a point. All right. It's like he kind of checked me and we went out there. I got the win, and having him there was like, I don't think I'll ever have a better experience because like, I've known Joe Cab, the guy that runs Combat FC, for a long, long time. He was a friend of my coach and Sit. He's been around the game for forever. And he let me bring him in the cage, you know what I mean? Walk around with him on my shoulders. He's getting the crowd going, all pumped. That's an experience you'll never forget. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing. They grow too quick.
Would you want him to pursue a dream in mixed martial arts?
No, not a chance. And the thing is, it's funny because like he's nasty. Like he's got really clean boxing. He's good, pretty damn good at jujitsu. Like I asked him, I'm like, so he competed a little bit, a couple of jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff. I'm like, Dom, would you ever want to fight? He's like, I saw how much you trained for that fight. He's like, not a chance. He's like, it's crazy. He's like, you're in the gym two times a day, every day, like for a fight. I'm like, thank God. I don't want him to fight. You know what I mean? You gotta be a different breed. Like that's something. There's one thing about being competitive, and there's something about having like being able to go somewhere else in there when you have to. I don't know how to explain it. Like you have to like have a I don't give a fuck type of attitude out of nowhere after getting hit. Like when you get hit, people like you show up. It's natural. People want to show up. You know what I mean? It's very hard to like. It's easy to dish, but it's hard to take it. You know what I mean? It's hard to take it and then give it back in front of everybody locked in a cage. You know what I'm saying? It's a different thing. Fighting someone on the street doesn't know what they're doing, taking a couple blows into a fight and then walking away. Okay. It's going to get, broken up and it's only going to last 30 seconds. It's one thing when you're locked into a cage or a ring with somebody in front of a couple thousand people and, this person's trained to beat you, it's a different mentality. You gotta be a warrior. You know what I mean? Like your mindset is everything. I think your mind is the most important thing you can have. You really have to believe in yourself to an outrageous extent. Like if you can't believe in yourself, you have no business walking in there. Period. It should be done. But I just don't. I will have a heart attack. I wouldn't want to be able to see him get hit. I just couldn't do it. My poor mother comes to my fights and she's probably pacing outside. She can't even watch. She tries to watch. She's watching through her her hands, and then she walks out. She's like, text me, tells my sisters and my brother, text me when it's over, make sure he's okay, and then she's fine. But I get it. It's hard. No chance I want him to fight. But you never know. He goes through puberty. He gets a little, starts getting, his chest all puffed out from getting into a fight or something, and then all of a sudden the kid wants to compete. I'll be his manager and his head coach and do the best I can with him, but he'd have to really, really want it to show me that he's going to put everything into it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really want him to do it, but we'll see what happens.
Do you get more nervous for your fights or when Rosa fights?
It's weird. So Lucas was, I think So Lucas Rosa is Charles's younger brother. He just fought, and I cornered him up in we're like Maine, or yeah, we were up north, and I think for I get more nervous for Lucas's fights just because growing up he was the baby we like babysitted. You know what I mean? Me and Charles would like babysit Lucas and Francis. We called them the twins. They were just little, cute little blonde headed twins. Just like they looked like little baby dolls, and we took care of them all the time. And he's still like my little brother. You know what I'm saying? Even though now he's competing, he's killing it. It's just I definitely get more nervous the thing is when you can't do anything about it, but just just hope and say that you get what your words are getting through to them. It's a hard feeling to deal with it. Like me myself, when I'm in there, I know once I'm in there, all the nerves are they fade away over time. Even if things aren't going your way, when I'm actually fighting, it's the best part of the fight camp. It's the best part of it for me. All the anxiety, all the bullshit, everything's washed away. I get to put on leave it all in the cage. Um, Everybody's a little different, People get really, really nervous in the fight. People get really, really nervous before. It's hard to, start shooting out words, telling people what to do and not sure if they're getting the feedback or not. But Charles did a really, really good job when I cornered him in Mississippi, listening to our feedback. I remember, he's walking into Pete's power side. I'm like, circle off the opposite leg, lead leg, circle out the other way. He did a really good job listening on the fly, and he's been doing it for a long time. So he knows, the more experienced, the voices to listen to that are important at, in those stages of the fight. Lucas did a great job too. His fight just didn't go super long, but everything we worked on in the back, he really dialed in and made sure that he did it. And that that just shows you them get just the level of how he's getting better and smarter. And I just get nervous because he's always my little brother at heart. He's just it's tough, but he's in good hands, man. He works his ass off, and he's a dog, so he's a Rosa, so he's good.
Speaking of Lucas, began his pro MMA career in May, already 5-0 now. Is the sky the limit for him?
Yeah, he's just got to keep on doing what he's doing. Stay humble, keep grinding, keep working with Charles McCarthy, Matt Waggy, Charles Rosa, all those guys down there. And really be coachable. Really do your best to really listen to people when they're coaching you because and Lucas is, if you met him outside of fighting, you would never think he's a fighter because he's very, he's just very cool, calm, collected, very chill, articulate, good kid. You know what I mean? He's not there's no I don't know. He's no attitude, nothing you wouldn't think he's but then you see him fight and you're like, okay, he's got that. But yeah, man, I'm excited for him. The future is bright for him, man. And I get anything he needs, he knows I got his back and his brothers, so he's in good hands.
All right, Rico, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome when you make your BKFC debut against Anthony Foye?
Perfect world, we go out there and make an incredibly exciting fight from start to finish. It goes a couple rounds, get to showcase some clean technical boxing and footwork, head movement, big punches, dirty boxing, a little bit of everything, set up for some big body shots, some big overhands. I'm going to do I want to showcase absolutely everything I possibly can and then get a fucking flatline knockout finish and walk off. That's the perfect world.
Absolutely. Well, Rico, hey, man, it's great talking to you again, seeing you again, and I wish you nothing but the best. Can't wait to watch you fight.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Till next time.
That's it for us tonight. I am Carlo Perusa. That's Mr. Rico DiSciullo. Stick around, fight fans.